My name is Catherine Miller. And the day I worked 8 years for, the day that was supposed to change everything, was the day my family chose not to show up. I didn't know that sentence would define my life. Not yet. That morning, graduation. Day didn't feel dramatic. It felt hopeful, quietly hopeful, the kind of hope you carry when you've survived too much to expect miracles. But you still believe, just a little, that maybe this time will be different. I stood in my bathroom, staring at my reflection, adjusting the collar of my gown with trembling fingers. My cap rested on the counter beside me, tassel perfectly placed, untouched. I had checked everything twice already. Then a third time, not because I was forgetful, because I was nervous. 8 years, 8 long years of late-night study sessions. Instant noodles, missed birthdays, canceled plans, and whispered promises to myself that one day it would all be worth it. Today was supposed to be proof. I picked up my phone. Nothing. No good morning message. No. We're on the way. No, we're so proud of you. Just the same text from my mom the night before. We're so busy getting everything ready for today. Don't stress. Okay? Busy. I read it again, trying to fill in the words she didn't say. Busy getting ready for my graduation. I told myself that was the only explanation that didn't hurt. Outside, the city was already alive. Cars honked, people laughed. Families walked past carrying flowers and balloons. Everywhere I looked, parents stood shoulder to shoulder with their children, arms wrapped tightly, cameras ready. I stepped out of my apartment and felt something tighten in my chest. This was it. I arrived at the venue early, like always. Habit drilled into me from years of being the one who couldn't afford mistakes. I stood off to the side, watching groups form, siblings hugging, grandparents wiping tears, parents fixing crooked caps. I checked my phone again. Still nothing. I typed a message. Where are you guys sitting? My thumb hovered over the send button, then I deleted it. I didn't want to sound needy. I didn't want to be that daughter. They were probably packing. Traffic was probably awful. They were probably already inside. How do you admit to yourself that the people who raised you might simply not come? Inside the auditorium, the lights dimmed. Graduates began lining up. Laughter echoed down the rows. Someone behind me talked excitedly about their parents flying in from another state just for today. I smiled when they looked at me. I didn't tell them my parents lived 20 minutes away. The ceremony started. The dean welcomed everyone, his voice warm and proud. Applause thundered through the room. I clapped too, though my palms felt numb. I scanned the seats again. Left side, right side. Front rows, back rows. Empty. I told myself not to panic. Maybe they were late. Maybe they were grabbing coffee. Maybe they were just out of sight. Denial is quiet at first. It whispers excuses before it screams the truth. Names began to be called. Every graduate who stood and walked across the stage felt like a countdown to something I wasn't ready to face. Then my phone buzzed. Relief flooded me so fast it almost hurt. I slipped it out from under my gown. It wasn't a message. It was a photo notification. My aunt had posted on social media. I froze. The image filled my screen. My brother Ryan stood in the center of our backyard, grinning. A cheap plastic banner behind him read, "Congrats, grad," even though he wasn't graduating from anything. My mom stood beside him, laughing, holding a plate piled high with food. Beer bottles. Music speakers. A party. The timestamp matched the exact moment my name was about to be called. Something inside me cracked. Not loudly. Cleanly. Like glass under pressure. When my name echoed through the auditorium, my body moved on instinct. I stood. I walked. I smiled. Cameras flashed. Applause rose and fell like distant waves. I shook the dean's hand. The diploma felt heavier than it should have. As I walked back to my seat, a question screamed in my head, louder than the applause. If this isn't enough for them, whatever will be? After the ceremony, the crowd spilled out onto the lawn in a blur of color and sound. Parents hugged their children. Friends cried, laughed, posed for pictures. I stood at the edge of it all. Alone. I called my mom. Voicemail. I called again. This time, she answered, but she didn't know it was me. Music blasted through the speaker. Laughter. voices overlapping. Hold on. Everyone? My mom said cheerfully. I need a picture of the guest of honor. The guest of honor wasn't me. I hung up. For a few seconds, I just stared at my reflection in the black screen of my phone. My lipstick had cracked at the corners from smiling. Too hard. I looked tired. Older. Not from studying. From understanding. The drive back to my apartment was quiet. No music, no podcasts. Just the hum of the engine and my thoughts lining up, one after another, painfully clear. If I stayed, I would always be flexible. Always understanding. Always second. If I left, at least the silence would be honest. By the time I parked, the plan had already begun forming. Not dramatic. Intentional. I packed only what fit into my car. Clothes, documents, my laptop. One framed photo, me and my grandmother on her porch, smiling like the world wasn't heavy yet. I slid my apartment key under the landlord's door with a short note. Then I sent my mother one final message. Single photo. Me. In my cap and gown. Standing alone in the empty auditorium. No caption. No explanation. Just the truth she chose not to witness. I muted her number, placed the phone face down on the passenger seat. And turned the key in the ignition. As I pulled onto the highway, Boston shrinking behind me, one thought followed me like a shadow. Was I running away? Or finally walking out of a role I was never meant to play? I didn't cry when I crossed the state line. I thought I would. I expected the tears to come rushing out, years of disappointment finally spilling over, but they didn't. Instead, something quieter settled in my chest. Relief. The kind that feels wrong at first. Like you're not allowed to feel better yet. Like you're betraying the pain by not drowning in it. The road stretched endlessly in front of me, mile after mile, pulling me farther from the life where I was always an afterthought. With every exit sign, I felt invisible strings snapping, strings I hadn't even realized were wrapped around my wrists. I wasn't leaving Boston. I was leaving the version of myself that kept waiting. By the time San Francisco appeared on the horizon, exhaustion clung to me like a second skin. My hands were stiff from gripping the steering wheel. My eyes burned from too many sleepless hours. But beneath it all, something else lived there now. Hope. Emma was waiting outside her apartment building when I pulled up. She was barefoot, wearing mismatched socks, hair pulled into a messy bun like she hadn't bothered trying to impress anyone. She didn't ask why I left. She didn't ask what happened. She just opened her arms. You actually did it, she said, holding me tighter than polite hugs allow. You really left. What was I supposed to do? I replied quietly. Wait around for her to remember I exist? Emma didn't argue. She didn't defend my mother. She didn't say family is family. She just helped me carry my boxes upstairs and cleared a corner of her living room like it had always been meant for me. The first week blurred together. Job applications during the day, life rewrites at night. Every form felt like a small act of rebellion. Emergency contact. Emma Torres. Next of kin. N.A. Permanent address. San Francisco, California. Each time my pen hovered over the space where my mother's name used to go, I felt something loosen inside me. If she hadn't shown up when I needed her most. She didn't get to be listed when it mattered on paper. 3 weeks passed like that. Interviews, rejections, waiting. Then one afternoon, my phone rang. We'd like to offer you the position. For a moment, I didn't respond. I just stared at the wall, convinced they had the wrong person. Me? The daughter who walked across her graduation stage alone? But the voice on the other end kept talking, outlining benefits, dates, opportunities. And suddenly, it was real. At the startup, people listened when I spoke. They didn't interrupt. They didn't minimize. They didn't assume my achievements belonged to someone else. When coworkers asked about my family, I kept it simple. I'm from Boston. I needed a change. Most nodded and let it go. How do you explain that your mother abandoned you on the day you finally earned your moment, without sounding like you're exaggerating? At night, I sat on Emma's couch scrolling through my phone. That's when I started deleting, not angrily, carefully. Blurry selfies, duplicate photos, random screenshots. The harder ones. My mom hugging Ryan at his birthday while I stood in the background. My mom cheering at his games. My mom smiling front and center at his milestones. Meanwhile, my awards ceremonies were documented in bathroom mirror selfies. Because no one else was there to take the picture, I erased them one by one. Not to pretend they never happened, but because I refused to keep preserving proof that I was optional. I kept one photo. My grandmother and me, standing on her porch, her arm looped through mine, looking at me like I mattered simply for existing. That photo stayed. San Francisco slowly became a life. Morning coffee, runs, work meetings where my ideas mattered. Pizza nights with Emma and coworkers, mornings where I didn't wake up checking my phone to see if my mom remembered I existed. Still, there was a quiet awareness humming beneath everything. I had disappeared from her world, but the part of me that wanted her to notice the empty space I left behind, that part was still alive. The email came on a Tuesday afternoon. The subject line was formal. Estate of Margaret Hayes. My grandmother's name. My stomach dropped. I opened it with hands that suddenly felt too heavy to lift. She had passed away peacefully 2 weeks earlier. There would be a small service in Boston. Attached were documents and a note she had written. She had set aside money for my education. For my graduation. My name Catherine written in her careful looping handwriting. But the account balance, almost empty. Withdrawals marked with dates that aligned perfectly with Ryan's emergencies. Car repairs. Trips. A failed business idea. Vacation disguised as a crisis. My throat went dry. Then I read the note she'd sent to the failure months. Before my graduation, she wrote that she was relieved my mother said I didn't want a big ceremony, that I preferred something small later. My vision blurred. My mother hadn't just skipped my graduation. She had rewritten it. She had erased my needs so thoroughly that even the one person who truly saw me believed I didn't want to be seen. When Emma came home that night, she found me sitting at the kitchen table surrounded by printed pages. She told my grandmother I didn't want them there. I said quietly, she used the money meant for my education. For Ryan. Emma read in silence. What do you want to do? She asked. For the first time my answer didn't shake. I want her to feel what she made me feel, I said. I want the truth to exist where her version has lived for years. I booked a flight to Boston. Not to reconcile. Not to fix anything. I was going back to bury my grandmother, and to bury the daughter my mother thought she could control. Boston felt smaller than I remembered. The streets were narrower. The sidewalks cracked in familiar patterns, like the city itself remembered the girl who once walked them with her head bowed, always waiting for someone to notice. I arrived 2 days before the service, carrying nothing but a suitcase and a journal. Emma stayed behind. She didn't need to see the theater of betrayal unfold. She had been my anchor, my witness, my chosen family. That was enough. The funeral home smelled of flowers and polished wood. I followed the muted chatter of relatives and strangers, all dressed in black as if mourning could be perfected with the right attire. My mother was there, perfect posture, hands folded, the same smile she used when she wanted to appear sympathetic. My brother Ryan hovered nearby, looking both guilty and proud. A dangerous combination I had seen countless times. I didn't approach them. I didn't need to. The service began. The minister spoke kindly about my grandmother, her generosity, her quiet support. I listened. I cried. But these were tears not for abandonment, not for injustice, not for the missed moments. They were tears for the love I had lost and the love I had finally found in myself. After the service, people came up to express condolences. Some recognized me. Some didn't. Some whispered that I had grown into a beautiful woman, and I smiled politely. Each acknowledgement, each whispered word felt like reclaiming the spaces I had been denied. And then, the confrontation. I approached my mother, calm and deliberate. Every step was measured, as if the ground itself deserved my respect for carrying me here. Catherine, she said, attempting warmth. I looked at her not with hatred, not with desperation, but with clarity. You told my grandmother I didn't want a celebration, I said softly. You took the money meant for my education. You erased me from milestones that mattered. Do you know what that feels like? Her eyes flickered, maybe with guilt, maybe with annoyance. I couldn't tell the difference. It feels like being invisible in your own life, I continued. Like every achievement, every smile, every failure, none of it mattered to the person who was supposed to love me unconditionally. I didn't wait for her to answer. I walked past her, letting the silence do the work words could never accomplish. Later, I met with the family lawyer to review my grandmother's estate. There were documents, clauses, letters, all legal confirmations that my grandmother had seen me, had valued me, had left me what she could. My mother had tried to rewrite the story. But the paper trail didn't lie. I smiled for the first time in years, quietly, privately. Justice wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was the simple act of claiming my existence, my worth, and my voice. I returned to Emma, to San Francisco, to the life I had built with my own hands. Weeks later, I received a letter from my mother. Short, polite, cold, apologetic in a way that revealed nothing. I didn't respond. Some people crave confrontation. Some people need to yell, to fight, to tear down. I didn't. I had something better. Freedom. I changed my name legally, not to erase my past, but to honor my grandmother and the woman I had become. I kept the memories that mattered. I discarded the ones that chained me. And in the quiet mornings, sipping coffee while Emma laughed over a spilled cup of creamer, I realized something profound. The daughter who was invisible had never truly been gone. She had just been waiting for the right world to notice. And now I didn't need her acknowledgement anymore because I had myself. And sometimes silence is the loudest message of all.